but we
Okay.
can do whatever we want.
Okay.
All right. Hello, ladies.
Hi, oh, we're live.
Oh my God, we're live now. Hi,
Woo!
everyone. Happy to be back, after so
How's
long.
everybody? I've missed you.
I missed you both. It's been such a long time
What is
since
it,
we
a
last
month?
talked.
Hmm. Isn't it a month the last time that we had our session?
I
Yes,
wasn't
it
around
was.
the last time.
It was a month. This is why this is more of a catch up session.
So
Yes.
many things have happened. But first, how have you both been doing? All good?
All good. All good from my end. Nothing so far, just like really, a lot of things going on. So that's what I'm trying to say. Like really, really busy on different
Yeah.
stuff. How about you, Tested and Amelia?
Tell us that.
Well, I've been busy, like you both, because there's so many things happening, no, at the intergovernmental front. Of course, I've been following these sessions remotely from my home because I couldn't travel because of so many issues around visa, no, because there's a huge backlog just trying to apply for to renew my US visa, so I couldn't. So I've been following a lot of the sessions from my home, but next month I'll be back traveling again to Europe for the climate change negotiations.
The
How about you,
intersessionals.
Amelia?
You're going to the intersessionals, that?
Yes,
No.
yes, I will be in Bonn, but I will also go to Stockholm, Sweden, because there's going to
Ah,
be this big meeting, Stockholm plus 50. Yeah, so it's all in one go. So it's going to be a long duty travel for me in May, the whole of
wow.
June, actually. Yeah,
I thought, but the intersessionals are in June, no?
yeah, yeah, yeah. So I'll be leaving end of May, and then I'll be coming back home to the Philippines first week July.
Wow!
Wow.
Oh, travel. Oh my God. Oh my God.
Yeah.
How about you,
But there
Amelia?
will also be there's also an interesting thing coming up. There's a G7 meeting happening in Munich, Germany, in end June. So I'll just be extending my trip, but I'm not going to attend the official G7 meeting because these are all rich country boys clubs. So I will be participating in the Alternative People Summit around G7. So that's I think a more meaningful gathering to attend rather than just listening to all of these nice sounding speeches from the world's richest economy boys club.
Exactly. Exactly.
How about you,
Yeah,
Amelia? You've been traveling.
yeah, I know.
Yeah, I went to CSW. I want to leave that in my past, in my traumatic moments, and it will take some therapy time to talk about it. But now I'm going to the FFD forum this weekend. We're having the civil society financing for development strategy meeting, and then the week after that I'm going to Berlin because the C7, which is the civil society that monitors the G7, is going to meet in a summit with the ministers and stuff. So we're doing like our prep work, more political, like short meetings, work before the big thing. So that's where I'm gonna be. But I also took some couple of days off because I'm really burnt out. I'm really, really burnt out, and we should talk about that. And I think that leads me to the main concern of all of us after the IPCC report was launched, right? It's just insane. And I just can't believe people is not talking about it. It's
Yep.
like What is happening with you people?
Yeah, but I think we should give a little bit of the basics to our friends out there because we've all been
Yes.
talking jargons: CSW, FFD,
G7, G7.
IPCC, G7. Oh my gosh, these three crazy
International
ladies are
climate
talking
talk.
abbreviations.
I want to add another one abbreviation, which is the G20, because I've been also, like right now, Indonesia is the presidency, taking care of the presidency of G20 right now,
Yes.
right? Right.
Yeah.
So I've been like following this G20, and then also there's a C20, just like C7 and then G7. And then yeah, and then really look into different working groups. So the next meeting will happen in October, November for the G20 itself, but the work has been going on from now.
Mm.
So a lot of things concerning, like for instance, some working group, even in the civil society, the C20, some working group are quite progressive. For instance, the financing and tax are great, but
Yeah.
some like the climate working group, like it's a nature. How come? Let's have a press release and press conference to promote nature-based solution.
Oh God,
Yeah,
no.
so that that kind of things.
Send
Anyways,
them the video, the Despise Girls video.
exactly, exactly. Like it's maybe we should have a counter campaign against that. That is really crazy.
And you
So
should
yeah,
also tell us about the APSD forum.
FEF.
Yeah, Rina was the rock star.
Yeah,
Woohoo!
woohoo, of course.
I mean the FEFSD. How to say it? Yeah, I mean I think
If
that
what's the abbreviation about?
okay. All right. All right, so
We're done.
APFSD, which is the Asia Pacific Forum on Sustainable Development, is actually a regional preparatory forum for the next high-level political forum, right? Which is where we discuss about the progress of the SDG every year in New York. Nah? So each of the region has their own regional preparatory forum, and then we attended last time. I mean, like the People's Forum, which is the CSO forum before the actual FPFSD, is really great. I mean, like it's really a chance for us because this is the first time ever we actually made it hybrid. We actually able to meet
Oh,
our friends after 2 years of doing online, and it is really really great to actually feel
yeah.
that energy of movements together, like coming from different constituencies. So we are having a great people's forum. We actually have our recommendation and everything, and then actually the FEFSD is okay because I think ASCAP has been giving a very sober kind of report every year, right,
Mm.
about the situation and the progress of the sustainable development goals in the region. And then according to ASCAP report in 2022, they say that we Asia Pacific can only reach SDG by 2065. So we call it
Whoa.
Agenda 2065 right
That's
now.
coming from the UN
This is
itself, no?
coming from ASCAP itself, and then they
Then
really
it's 2 centuries far.
exactly like there's no way with the situation, with the crisis, with the inequality that is happening, with the widening gap between inequalities between countries and also within countries. There's no way that we can actually have it by 2030, and then the only time that we can do it is 2065, right? And then we can just like wow, it's yeah, we call it Agenda 2065 right now, and
That's
then they
huge.
also
Amazing.
But that's a huge report, no? I'm not quite sure how much people knew about that because that is already an admission that the 2030 agenda is a failure. No, if
yeah,
a UN
exactly.
body can say at this point that the SDGs can only be met in 2065, ergo, another way of saying it is that it's a failure.
Exactly, exactly. And then also they actually mention, so they have like the progress of each of the goal and then where the Asia Pacific stands. So for there's a reverse. So if there's a progress, there's a bar, right? And then we go to the progress near to the target. There's a reverse trend for sustainable consumption and production, go 12, and climate change, go 13. So that's really like showing how in Asia Pacific, there is actually a really serious concern about that issue, especially for goal 13, considering the disaster, the impact of disaster and natural disaster and man-made disaster because of the issue of climate. It's also part of the target. And then also looking at issue of the renewable energies and fossil fuels. So that is the gist of it. So for the people's forum, and then we make a very strong statement that we will bring to the HLPF, later on. And then of course it's talking about, it's a failure, SDGs failure, right? So the conversation within the SDG discussion needs to change. It really needs to talk about how we address systemic issue that hindering, the SDG to really be achieved. There's a need to talk about debt, a need to talk about financing, the need to talk about tax, and then that's still missing, in the conversation. But yeah, that's all from APFSD 2022, everyone.
Yay! People, please give us your comments, your questions. Don't leave
Yeah.
us here alone to die.
That's true.
But it's good to at least have some kind of an informal, feedback session about all of these high level meetings, because it seems that the UN and the whole multilateral system is still not letting up on having high level meetings. No, I think because of this, our common agenda and all of the UN Secretary General's pronouncements, he loves convening high level meetings as if this were going to bring about the real changes. No, he as if this is going to rally behind everybody on the our common agenda. We talked about that in a previous episode, no, with Ellie.
Yes. No, and so let's get into the main issue, which is the IPCC report just launched its latest report, a package of three, and it was about mitigation. We've been announcing it, we've been expecting it, and then it came, and it's a mess. And it's a mess because, first of all, we've heard about the negotiations, and again, the wealthy countries pushing back on anything that is decent, anything that is based in science informed, anything that is related to their responsibilities. So, on the one hand, we have to understand that the IPCC report is a diluted version of what was there. And that is something that needs to be really clear in our heads. The second thing is that there is the report, and then there is the summary for policymakers, which is the kind of the summary of the entire report. This is kind of a 1,500 pages, more or less, report. And the summary of policymakers was negotiated line by line. And again, that's where wealthy countries pushed back on a lot of things that are really important for people to understand and to have in their minds. So if people want to have a clear version, a clear understanding of what is it that we need to focus on, is the report, not the summary for policymakers, because that was also diluted. And there were very interesting graphics that were pushed out, such as the responsibility by regions. And that is where you could see precisely that Africa, Latin America, Asia, and the Pacific had no responsibility whatsoever in the overall historic carbon emissions. And of course, that type of graphics were pushed out alongside many others. The other thing that we need to be clear is that we're getting into a very dangerous moment, reaching a breach to achieve the 1.5 global warming. And that's a very important moment, because after that, that is going to imply, I mean, 1.5 is dangerous enough, we're seeing it. And then what happens next, I'm also gonna let Tete and Rina talk about that. Rina has already started saying that. But to me, the most important thing, and I think we cannot highlight it enough, is that the 2030 agenda sets a bar at 2030, and countries in the United Nations conventions on climate change have been talking as well about 2030 goals, 2050 goals, etc., so that they say we're going to be slowly reducing our emissions. And so they've set targets for them in national determined contributions. Turns out not only the national determined contributions, the NDCs, are not enough. I mean, if you add them up together, it doesn't add up to be below 1.5, but it's not that only. The thing is that the latest IPCC report, as it's stating, is that we only have 3 years. We only have 30 months to shift completely before going into mayhem and chaos. Why? Because in the trajectory we're at, there is only an opportunity to reach in 2025 the highest peak, and from then on we need to drastically fall from carbon emissions. If we do not do that in 3 years, then we're not gonna achieve the 1.5 degrees. So I'm really worried about people not only receiving the IPCC report or something, Will Smith is more important and whatever, than this situation, but also that even amongst the community of activists, those who are monitoring several international processes, there is no sense of urgency. I'm really like, everybody should drop what they're doing and just focus on climate for the next 3 years. Just drop it. And I'm not saying drop it, your topic is not useful. It's rather like everything is related. So if you're doing SRHR, sexual and reproductive health and rights, if you're doing identities, if you're doing technology, if you're doing transport sectors, cities, whatever you're doing, it is related. And this is a moment in which we need to be, really, really reassessing what we're doing. And I'm just gonna finish saying that Jason Hickles has been tweeting their latest research, and 2 weeks ago they released one that is just so striking about the overshoot, meaning which there is like a budget, like every country can only make this amount of emissions, so that in the sum, in the addition, then you have the aggregation, you have this global emissions. So the overshoot is which countries have exceeded that budget of emitting greenhouse emissions, and therefore aggravated the problem. So the data is unbelievable. The US alone, the US and the UK alone are in charge, are responsible of 40% of the overshoot. And then they have the graph of Canada, Australia, New Zealand, Japan, the EU. All of them combined, the global north combined, is responsible for 92% of the overshoot. 92%. This means, just very clearly, and this is the type of knowledge and data that developed countries knew in the negotiation of the IPCC report, that they pushed back and kicked out. that it's so blatantly clear the responsibility of developed countries. So now I just want to tell people in the global north, what are you doing? Just really just go and change yourselves outside your parliaments. Just don't save your political capital. Just don't don't save your good manners, you know. And the past weeks, I don't know if you've seen the scientist rebellions, which is, I think, I need to go back into the data of how many scientists of I think it's 27 countries who have been chaining themselves outside of Exxon, of, you know, many fossil fuel industries. They've been sitting outside their parliaments, and there's this hashtag scientist rebellions. Nobody's paying attention to them, and this is their way of saying, this is not my thing. I'm so worried. People, scientists crying, you know, scientists saying, I may as well go to jail. I need to send this message. And I'm just wondering what is happening to the activist community. You know, it's like nothing is happening. We have the tools, we have the knowledge, we've been mobilizing, we have the contacts, we have the concern. What is happening to us? It's like, if it's I'm just
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I just can't believe it. So I'm just gonna stop here and breathe while I hear Rina and Tata's opinions.
Like for me, just Amelia, for on that scientist, I'm just going to give you some story. Both of you.
Yes,
You
yes.
know it. I actually, like, I'm so ashamed. I'm actually knew it from my daughter. 13 years old, Dinda. So she was telling me, Manda, do you know that this scientists, they are actually arrested because they are protesting to, in relation with climate change and etc. etc. And then she was saying that the what do you call it, the reality that actually there's not enough coverage about this. It's
No.
crazy. And then Dinda knew it actually from TikTok, like, so according to her, that TikTok has this political TikTok, man. Now you can see about the issue of race, about climate, and etc. So really, I mean, like, the fact that there's not enough coverage to really talk
Yeah.
about this, it's really, really bad. And even in the IPCC report, I can see only handful of media that is actually covering that.
Yes.
Guardian did, like, with
Yeah.
talking about it's now or never, to actually act on climate change, but none others. I didn't see it everywhere, right? And then also, yeah, the urgency of it is very, very important. I think that we need to reflect what happened to the activist community. What happened to us? Are we getting tired? Are we very, it's something that we need to discuss also, and what is actually our strategy. But for me, I think that, yeah, that is the fact that is happening now. And then I really felt that this needs more attention. I do agree with you, like, stop everything that you're doing and then just talk about this issue, right?
Yes.
Wow, this is heavy, no? And I really feel the heaviness in the air, especially because of the urgency of the situation. It is now very clear that science is on the side of speaking up on the need for addressing the roots of the climate crisis, no? Last August, they already released the first report, which said that human changes are having irreversible effects on the climate. So that should already be a wake up call. In February, the scientists warned about the catastrophic impacts, no, with the Working Group 2 report. And now, with the Working Group 3 report, they are saying that, oh no, we have already breached, no, um we are already nearing that point of the point of no return in terms of the climate impacts, because we have breached already the 350 parts per million, which is the safe limit, no, for the safe level. We are now at 418.9 parts per million of carbon dioxide emissions in the atmosphere. So it's really, it's mind boggling, no, because The science alone should compel everyone to act on the urgency. And you're right, no, even the climate justice movement, I think we need to really have a hard look upon ourselves because we need a more compelling way of talking about this multiple crisis, this intersecting crisis of injustice. Not injustice in the economy, injustice in the way, societies are organized, in the way people are organized, etc. But we also need to offer a not just a critique or an abstract system change, not climate change solution, because it sounds good as a rallying cry, but it doesn't really capture a lot of the broader public. Now, what does system change look like? And sometimes us activists are also at fault because we cannot really go concrete. No, what is behind? What does system change look like? Not just those abstractions of addressing questions of power, addressing questions of relationships, but how do we get to that system change? We are so good at saying we should bring down capitalism because it is the capitalist system that is wreaking havoc on people and planet. But how do we get there? What needs to be done in order for us to bring down that system that causes so much injustice to our systems? I'll also stop there.
I mean, we need to ask our audience, right? What do they think? Because on the one hand, I think the data and the upcoming destruction of the world should be compelling enough. We shouldn't be just minding our words to try to convince people to join the cause, or it's like, what else if not the end of the world, the destruction of lives and biodiversity, the extinction of species? I don't know. To me, it's like it has to be very dire, and it has to be very concrete, and it has to be very radical in the sense to appoint responsibles, to hold them into account. And there are many actors, so I don't know why we're not turning into blaming and shaming. And I think many people are doing that very nicely. I mean, the scientists went straight to the fossil fuel producers. So I think we know the answers. I don't know why people is not acting. And again, I'm going back to the global north, because everybody expects the global south, to rise and die in the arena of for our ideals. But it's just like, really, I just need people in the global north to be going to jail and stopping massively the type of way, the style of life that they're having, and to take owner of their citizenship, and just engage with their politicians. Break the EU. We need to break the EU. We need to break the position of the US, to break the position of Australia. I mean, that only can happen from within. That's not something that we can do from the Philippines or Indonesia or Thailand or Mexico. This just happens in the global north throughout the processes, and they cannot just show up to intersessional or the COP and just say, oh, we can't do anything. It's like, yeah, but what were you doing in the past months? It's like, you need to go national. Stop with your charities and your official development assistance. Stop helping poverty in the global south. Just refocus and stay in your lane, stay in your territory, stay with your decision makers, and break those positions. Like, that can happen if you're also doing local national work, and then and go monitoring the regional processes, like we all do. We're all monitoring our own regional processes, but we do a lot of national work. And that's what's not happening in the northern countries. They're looking at the broader they have this white savior complex, and they're, oh, we're gonna help you people in the global south to alleviate the effects of poverty. And then they just show up in the main meeting. So, oh, I got the big slot to speak. Excuse me, I'm gonna speak on behalf of the civil society.
But
Tell
you
me,
know
It's
what's
like,
really troubling. I've been hearing some conversations within the bigger civil society networks and coalitions. And I'm really troubled because it seems like they want to change this narrative that the North responsibility, the North accountability, and they now want to highlight the fact that climate change is affecting everyone globally. So we should all work together. So I said, "Oh my gosh, isn't this the line that I've been hearing in the negotiations that climate
No.
change is a global problem, therefore we should all work together?
Who is
Whatever
this?
happened to, historical
Naming,
responsibility?"
naming. We just, I'm just done. Yeah.
Please, that maybe after this. Like,
I almost fell off my seat when I heard that that was the strategy that they were going to try, a more positive narrative that will bring
Yeah.
people together. It's like,
Like,
oh my gosh, Ban Ki-moon tried that in Manhattan. He mobilized 500,000 people, but where did that get us? Nowhere. So now even civil society is going to try that narrative that this is one huge existential problem that we should all work together to solve. I don't
that's
know. I don't know.
that's great.
no, no.
Yeah. Can we, just can we go back to that, IPCC report for a bit? Yeah. And then
Yeah.
I know that we already talking about, the
No, go
civil
ahead.
society and what we can do, and etc. It's just like I haven't read the whole thing, but I try to read the summary and everything, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then it's really like for instance, a lot of this, because it's talking about mitigation, and mitigation is about reducing the release of greenhouse gas emission. And then even like Guardian said that, for instance, the fossil fuel industry and its influence over policy is the major elephant in the room, right? And then they also say that a lot of in the IPCC report itself saying about fossil fuel, but it's mysteriously missing in the, what do you call it, in the policy summary that
Yeah.
they give to
The
the
summary of policymakers.
yeah, the summary of policy. And then I just really want to find out, if you want, maybe one of you read it, what is actually the IPCC report say on the solution that we can do? Is there anything that they say there?
Yeah. The
Yeah,
entire report is about solutions, because
solutions.
it also goes into chapters of what to do with transport, with agriculture. It goes really deep. So even if people is not really, I'm gonna say, people sometimes say I'm not knowledgeable. I'm just focusing on what I know. There are so many ways in which the solutions are laid out there, and so many layers. So I think it would be good if people just download it and try to skim it, and then see what I feel more familiar with, because indeed you can find a lot of solutions, and the first solution is degrowth. Degrowth is a concept that many scientists, many experts have been working in the past, and now it made it to the IPCC report. And what I find it interesting is that the UN, the UN, UNDP, UN Women, everybody. I just don't want to single them out, but it's just too early here, and those are the name of the
Okay,
agency that come up in
name
my
them
head.
and shame them.
But it's just that they keep talking about growth. I mean, the upcoming what is ICPD?
Uh,
The Conference on Population and Development. It's talking. The main topic is growth and whatever, population, and I don't know. It's like, stop talking about growth. Stop talking about growth. There are planetary boundaries. We cannot keep on aiming at growth. Growth is also linked to this very problematic notion of the GDP, which we know it's an aggregation, and so it hides concentration of wealth and its impacts, rather than reflecting the situations as they are. So now we need to shift to degrowth, and that has to start with the UN, period. That has to start with the UN, with their official discourse. They cannot keep on promoting growth and at the same time say, oh, we're so worried about climate change. It's like, stop it. It's like, do your minimum work is to try to steer towards degrowth. And that is also something that civil society needs to do immediately. If there is an emergency in our agenda, should be degrowth, whatever it is, whatever lane is it we are. I think that is our point of entry. And the second one, of course, this fossil is the false solutions. We've been talking about them. So talking about refocusing on the false solutions, because even if we go back, oh yeah, yes, as Teta was saying, everybody is responsible. It's affecting us all. So let's go and get towards net zero. It's like, again, like, like we're bumping into walls. We're running too fast, and then we're like, that's not gonna cut it. A nature-based solution,
Yeah.
so and all of those stuff. The IPCC report at least is very good again in saying that if we do not work hard enough, there is some mixture of some proposals on carbon markets, but really saying it's not enough, we can't go into this path, so okay, it's good, right? So yeah, I think we have some clarity. I just don't understand why people is not, yeah, I'm super frustrated.
Teta, say to us, who is that person? No.
That's it, Rina. It's not just one
It's love.
person. It's not just one person, but these are highly influential, voices within supposedly the climate community. So that's
Oh my.
what's troubling me, no? So, I'll talk about it off the record later.
Yeah. Global North or Global South?
What's interesting is that I think 2 weeks ago, there was also this meeting of the Warsaw International Mechanism on Loss and Damage. So it's part of the UNFCCC climate
Yeah.
architecture. And they were all talking about the IPCC report. So I was like, okay, finally, this would give the profile loss and damage needs so badly in the climate negotiations because science is already talking about it, no? But then, of course, there would be the usual tension between rich and the rich countries and the global south around mention of finance. So they're saying that's not part of our mandate. That should be that's part of the COP decision that we engage in a dialogue. So now all of the energies of negotiators are going into the Glasgow dialogue on climate finance because that was what was agreed at COP26. So it's like they're going to start from the very first step again, which is landscaping. So,
Shit. Oh my God. Sorry.
go. We're
Oh
going
my
to
God.
the intercessional of the climate negotiations. They're going to start with landscaping. What is the situation out there? What is the need for finance? And maybe have another long, long and endless debate about what is meant by climate finance. So that is how, government leaders are when it comes to responding to the urgency that science is already giving us. No, they say it's urgent, but we will start with landscaping. It's like
Wow.
WTF.
We know that we need from 300 to 600% more for of climate finance as the minimum to address all of the challenges. And we actually know that it should be mainstream, meaning all of the finance should be climate finance, right? So, and human rights based, gender based, etc. So this is just insane what you're saying. And we're forgetting, the role of the states. And Adriana is really kind. People, you don't know Adriana, but she's amazing, and she's giving us here some reminders of some issues that we need to bring about here. And she's saying, the policy packages, policies, regulatory and economic instruments, uh, also including economic instruments, they are effective in reducing emissions. So we need these economy-wide packages, meaning all of the sectors, all of the economic sectors, all of the productive sectors, all of the social sectors should work together. And with that, we can achieve system change. That is also, aligned with the ambition that the world needs at the moment. So there can be, and we need, of course, a coordination amongst the different actors. So it can be achieved. The IPCC report says it can be achieved. We just need to really, be serious about it. And to me, I think the scientists made an effort to highlight the power differences, the responsibles. They made an effort. It was not, their intention, but they made an effort because that is what science proved. So I think we're doing a disservice as activists if we're going back and we're deleting that truth by saying, oh, everybody's responsible, we're all in this together, when the scientists really, really did whatever was in their hands to put it there. So I'd say it's a responsibility of us now, especially a responsibility of actors in the global north, of INGOs, of all of those networks that have some headquarters in the global north, or all of those citizens based in the global north. This is very clear to me. So what are you gonna do, feminists, environmentalists, though coming from economic justice movements? What are you going to do? And tell us and report back. Give us your indicators. Give us, your your targets at the end of the year and tell us if you fulfilled it. This cannot just keep on going. We lost Rina. Rina
I
was
know. Where did
at the
Rina
most dire
go?
moment.
Maybe she went out in the street to protest, no?
Oh yes.
No, but I
Rina.
think, Amelia, it's the points that you're raising are really very important because in many different policy forums, we hear the same things, no? Climate crisis, etc., finance, support for, leave no one behind. But nothing is really moving. If any, things are getting much worse. So, and you said everything is interconnected. So now there's going to be another major meeting in 2 weeks' time. Oh, Rina is saying storm, power cut. Third world problems, no?
Yes.
Rina, hope you can join us back.
We miss
So,
you.
yeah. But you've been
Yes.
very involved in the financing for development discussions also. And I see that, of course, the theme again is so nice sounding, no? Recovery from the pandemic, climate crisis, and they even have this thing about sustainable and just transition. So,
Yeah.
what are your thoughts on this, no? Can the FFD really bring the needed energy to look at things from a systemic point of view?
Yeah. Let me first go to CSW. I
Mm,
said I
yeah.
didn't want to talk about it, but now I will
Yeah.
have to talk about it. Because CSW, the Commission on the Status of Women, was about gender equality and environmental emergencies. Climate change, biodiversity, disaster risk reduction. And on the one hand, there was again this major obstacles for participation. And it almost felt as if it was intentional to keep the activists out and to say, don't come to New York, don't travel, don't do your activism. And in the final day before CSW, the Secretary General launches this letter saying, negotiations resume normality and observers can access the headquarters. This is historical because it's been 2 years since the UN has been closed to observers, to civil society and social movements. So it is really weird to go inside the hallways after 2 years and everything is empty. So I'm hoping the UN resumes normality. On the other hand, the feminist movement, the one that usually engages in CSW, was totally not prepared to face, the technicalities, the nuances of the environmental agenda. And those in the environmental movement felt, oh, that's the women's track. We don't engage in that. We're too busy. So we're not engaging in that. The feminists got it. And the feminists were like, yes, we're feminists, but we need experts, And so, and the economic justice experts who should also be there weren't there. So it was a disaster. It was a disaster that I could just, I need to hide under my bed. So it was that bad. It was so bad. Because there were many fights that were very worthy to be fought on the field of gender equality alone. But those are fights that pertain to the field of gender equality, and they're going to keep on being fought throughout the years. But the main issue, and we lost a precious opportunity to gain new language, because there is no language in CSW on any of these fields, on environment, on climate. And so we lost a very precious opportunity because of the addition of many things. And I just want to say, everybody's overburdened. Everybody's, is assessing where are they engaging. I'm sorry. So I can understand. But on the other end, I don't understand. It's like this needed to be the floor for something bigger to help in the upcoming intersessionals for climate change, but also for the biodiversity discussions, and also for everything, including the human rights treaty bodies. We should have been able to get relevant language for all of those fights, and we didn't. And we need to say that very loud. There is even this stupid language. I mean, I wanted to have language on the right to a healthy, clean, sustainable environment. I want to include safe. No, because France removed the word safe from the discussion in Geneva. So now I wanted to bring it back, and many countries were willing to give it back. In the final moment, they put down rights to whatever. So they diluted even the very decision that was agreed in Geneva just a couple of months ago. So it was insane. Not even the recognition of a new right that is being discussed. So there is a lot of ignorance about what is going on from in New York, from what is happening in Geneva, from what is happening in Bonn, or so that is also a problem. And that takes me to the FFD forum, because this is the track of the environmental justice activists, right? And it's taking them a long time to hear what we want to say about climate justice, about what you are saying, a just and equitable transition. And, I think they can understand and help us build on the notion of degrowth. They just need to take it. They just need to help us do the math, climate finance. What are the implications of nature-based solutions? That is on their field. That is totally on their field. Yeah. And they're catching up. It's not quick enough. They're doing this other fight for global economic and financial architecture that is democratic. And it goes back to OCA, the point you were raising at the beginning, versus sheer, clear, pure negotiations in the UN. That's what we want. We want governments to decide, because we want developing countries to sit down. That's where we want the voice of developed the global south, of developing countries. They need to sit down and have a voice and not be overwhelmed by these bullies, decision makers in the C20 and the C7.
The rich
That's
boys
what we want.
clubs.
Yeah, so the FFD is being negotiated at the moment. We have a draft. We have actually a document that is under silent procedure at the moment. We wanted to have an FFD conference, a crisis conference somewhere where all of the governments could sit down and discuss all of these things. And the language is very poor. It's just saying, oh, we leave it to the General Assembly, the decision to hold an FFD conference, but it doesn't even say the year. So it's like the general secretary, the General Assembly might as well say, okay, in what 2065, when Asia
Oh my
Pacific doesn't
gosh.
achieve their goals, we're gonna host the FFD conference. They might as well decide that.
But
So
isn't it that, there's supposed to be a 2025 Summit of the Future? Isn't that where all of these are supposed to lead to?
I mean, I want to be sensitive because my beloved Barbara Adams told me that there is some value in those high level summits. And she said, for instance, a huge decision can be achieved just politically and just go straight ahead. But then we need to focus on what is that huge decision that we want to achieve. I mean, it's not going to be all of these tiny details, technicalities that we want that
Right,
really
right.
make up for the solutions. But if there's going to be just one major decision, that can be achieved in a high level summit. So fine, let's engage in that, but that cannot replace the other. Because I'm very tempted to say, just let's keep that and just go straight, to the nitty gritty work that needs to be
Yeah.
done. But okay,
Sometimes we need those high level political moments, no? To get things moving.
that's what I was told, and I
Yeah.
can. My friend Barbara Adams is very wise, so okay, I'm
Well, we proved
reconciling
that
in my
point
head.
somehow in Glasgow, because of civil society's insistence to talk about loss and damage and put it in the
Yeah,
agenda. We have a COP decision that mentions loss and damage for the first time ever.
yeah.
So there is some value also. Yeah.
Yeah, but that cannot replace the other. So that's the
Yeah.
fight that should be fought in the FFD lane. It's under silent procedure. The forum happens next week, and I'm just gonna say very honestly, to me the value is meeting in person with the activists. It's again what Rina was saying. And what you're going to be doing next month is really to meet in person, to reassess and to own our mistakes or our faults, or let us say where we fell short and what are
And
the
where we
strategies
need to get
we should
better.
not go.
Hmm.
Yeah, and I'm going to tell them what you just said here about, oh, we're all being impacted by climate change, so that we counteract that discourse. It's like, um, yeah, we can we need to be very clear. I think Rina was also bringing this point, like what are we doing, and reassess our strategies. And I don't know, we want to hear from the audience, what can we
Hmm.
do? What Yes, at this point we cannot keep on doing what we've been doing if we haven't achieved anything. We've lost in every track, so we cannot just keep on, I'm sorry, going to HLPF and the SDGs. If it's not binding, if it's not happening, if it's just a declaration, then why are we wasting our time there? We should go into the climate track, which is binding, which is technical, and decisions happen and countries come back and implement. So, I think honestly, let's forget about the SDGs for 3 years. because if the other thing doesn't happen, the SDGs are not gonna happen, and this
Right.
is just a waste of time. I'm sorry.
Hmm.
Don't hate me, people. I know I was the co-chair of the coordination mechanism, which LPF,
But
and I'm
it's
like,
true if you're saying that we barely have 3 years left before the point of no return, then all hands on deck. The ship is sinking and it's sinking fast.
yes. And we're just there in, the cocktail part. Okay, let me grab just one more canapé in the HLPF before the boat sinks. It's like, no, people, just get real.
Yeah. Well, who knows? Some of our conversations here are controversial enough, and I hope a lot of our civil society friends who are on Facebook, who are on Instagram and Twitter will feel intrigued about a lot of the things that we've been saying here, no? To self-examine. How do we build stronger movements? It's not enough that we challenge governments and the processes to break down those silos if we ourselves are still trapped within those silos, no?
Yeah,
Climate, social justice, economic justice, gender justice movements. We need to walk the talk as well. So maybe we need to come together, no, and have those difficult conversations. What are
yeah,
we doing wrong? Where can we be better? How can we really say that this is a global justice movement?
yeah. And just two things on that. First, I mean, we're saying this with a lot of love because we believe that if there is a driving force that can change things, is collective power. So we're meaning this, that if we're disappointed in the way movements have achieved their targets so far, is also because we believe in them. We believe that these are the driving force. And
Because
of
we are
course,
part of the movement, Emilia. We are not saying this from outside. We are
yes,
part.
exactly. And we believe that we can change policies, we can change the way actors behave, we can change the way human behaves, because if it's social, so it's a social construct, we can change that. But the second thing I wanted to say before closing is that we need to center the indigenous peoples movement. We don't know how to do it. We shouldn't do that in an extractive manner. We need to meet them in their own terms. We need to hear them on how, on when, and what they want to exchange with us. What do they need from us? How can we support them? But honestly, at this moment, they are the ones who have the solutions. They have so clear solutions for the entire time. And I'm not saying this in a, in a condescending manner, just to say in an extractivist manner, in the sense that they've been, we have said here many times, they're subsidizing life on Earth right now with the 80% of the biodiversity that they're upholding. So, but then what does that mean? Does that mean that we're oppressing them more? And on the other end of the solutions, you know, and their situation of discrimination and the reduced sovereignty, etc. So many issues, but just to close, if there is a movement we need to center at this moment, is the indigenous peoples, and I don't think we know how. So that is also posing us many questions that we need to be very fast in trying to at least, setting the ground and engaging, Rina.
Sorry for that. And then I was like on the backstage. Amelia, please go on. Please go on.
That was finished. We missed you. Say what your reactions.
Yeah, we'll hear from Rina to close this powerful
Yes.
session.
Like, I think that I missed a very important discussion on collective power, right? And then how
Yes.
we want to center our now, one of the movement that we actually needs to be in our center is actually indigenous people's movement. That's what I heard
Yes.
before. Yeah. So
What do you think? I mean, I think we can go above 3 minutes so that we can hear and wrap up.
yeah, I mean, like, I totally agree with that, and I think that it's very, very, very important for us to actually maybe have a like a more kind of cross movement conversation again, within the movement itself, and then to actually really have that understanding of, and then for me, I think maybe the next Despise Girl we should invite maybe like another indigenous
Yeah.
from the indigenous peoples movement. I totally agree. And then but yeah, I think that this time we really should make a more effort, to actually build that collective power and make some actions. The urgency is now, right?
But
Yeah.
and not but and we didn't mention as well the hardest effort that our colleagues from the seats from the islands are making, and they're being very, very straightforward in their messaging. They're also the ones that are being the most impacted. So anything that we can do to uplift their messages, to be very clear, and to be in sisterhood and solidarity with their radical voices. We cannot be here, oh, yes, let's soften our discourse while they are saying we need to go more radical. And then they are seeing, oh, they're very ideologized, they're very radical. That happened. That happened at CSW. A negotiator from a developed country they were looking at Twitter, and they saw this campaign by the Pacific Island women, and they were like, oh, why are they so radical? Why are they are attacking us? Why are they saying it's like, because you're not doing anything. And so targeting environmental activists at this moment is more it's on the high now, it's on the rise now. So this is also a matter of life and death, not only for people, receiving on the receiving end of the impacts of climate change. It's also for the activists, and especially the activists that have more to lose and their communities. So the radical response, we owe it to them. We owe it to them because that's what they're doing, not out of their mean hearts, but on the contrary, because of their huge love for this beautiful planet. And so, yeah, we have a huge task ahead. Maybe some donor there, please give us funding to organize a strategy meeting to think of new ways on engaging in activism and breaking silos. So please, we can share our email, send us a message by Facebook Messenger or whatever, Instagram, Twitter, we're out there. Give us money. That's it.
More power, for more actions.
We need support if we want to embark on our collective journey for change.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, and with that, we can close the session. Let's
When will
try
be
to get back. Let's try to get back after the FFD forum, like in 2 weeks. So let's see. I mean, but then I have the C7. So in 3 weeks, we can get back with more gossip.
Yup, definitely. We should catch up regularly.
Okay. Yes.
All right,
All
everyone.
right. Thank you so much. Mwah, mwah, mwah.
Yeah.